The 9 Satanic Statements from the Satanic Bible by Anton LaVey. Number 1. Satan represents indulgence instead of abstinence. Number 2. Satan represents vital existence instead of spiritual pipe dreams. Number 3. Satan represents undefiled wisdom instead of hypocritical self-deceit. Number 4. Satan represents kindness to those who deserve it, instead of love wasted on ingrates. Number 5. Satan represents vengeance instead of turning the other cheek. Number 6. Satan represents responsibility to the responsible instead of concern for psychic vampires. Number 7. Satan represents man as just another animal, sometimes better, more often worse than those that walk on all fours, who, because of his divine spiritual and intellectual development, has become the most vicious animal of all. Number 8. Satan represents all of the so-called sins, as they all lead to physical, mental, or emotional gratification. And number 9. Satan has been the best friend the church has ever had, as he has kept it in business all these years.
This is the symbol for the Church of Satan, and this is kind of like their crest, their coat of arms, if you will. This would imply that these people either have affiliations with the Church of Satan or perceive themselves to have affiliations with the Church of Satan. Everything that we've seen here indicates Satanism.
Different ritual sites will have different configurations and markings, but this gives you a good example of what to look for. First, upon entering the park, the pentacle and inverted cross were displayed. Second, further up the path, we found a voodoo vivi, which indicated a money ritual. Third, at the open cement areas that are common to satanic activity, we found graffiti that showed recent activity. In addition, we found a bloody noose and a xylocaine vial. Fourth, on the way out of the park, we found another inverted cross and the number 9, which, as we demonstrated, represents the 9 satanic statements from the Satanic Bible. Fifth and finally, we found markings indicating that the ritual was by followers of the Church of Satan.
Behind me is the city of San Francisco, a city known for the first satanic church in America. Anton LaVey established this church under the freedoms of our country in 1966 and wrote the Satanic Bible.
Anton LaVey, perhaps the best-known Satanist in America, compiled his years of cult knowledge into 2 of Satanism's most important handbooks, the Satanic Bible and a companion, the Satanic Rituals. The general practice of Satanism promotes 3 basic areas of attraction: gratification of flesh, gratification of ego, and power. Some Satanists, and a significant number of others, feel that Satanism is a viable way of getting supernatural help because they are too distant from the good God to have any hope of reaching Him. The good God and His virtues, such as beauty and joy, are essentially impractical. And it would be easier to catch the notice of an evil God than a good one.
To better understand Satanism, it might be appropriate to talk about some of the initiation practices for Satanists. And to better understand them, you would take a look at what might be traditional Christianity or some normal faith, and if you reversed it, it would be something that Satanists would embrace.
Initiation into Satanism or a similar cult usually includes a spoken denial of the Christian faith, generally accompanied by saying the Lord's Prayer backwards. Rebaptism in Satan's name and taking a new name to replace the given Christian name. An oath of allegiance to Satan while standing in a magic circle, entering the initiate's name in the Book of Death. And a promise to sacrifice children to Satan, and marking the initiate with the devil's mark.
This program is designed to help law enforcement officers better understand satanic cults. Now remember, all satanic people do not commit crimes. Some of their activities are perfectly legal. But there are some things that some Satanists do that lead to illegal behavior, and some of them seem rather innocent on the surface. Some of those things might be just simple vandalism or trespass. Cruelty to animals that might be detected through mutilations and sacrifice. Kidnapping, whether they're adults or children, or even kidnapping of animals. Rape, molestation, child abuse, child sexual abuse that may be different than just harming a child, ritual abuse, arson, murder, which might include human sacrifice or mass murders or cannibalism, drug trafficking, sexual trafficking of children, corpse theft, cemetery vandalism, black market sales of bones and skulls, black market baby selling, pedophilia, pornography, torture, desecrating churches or other religious buildings, human slavery, weapons violations, suicides, disposing of animal parts, illegal entry into mortuaries and cemeteries, necrophilia, or having sex with dead people. These things may or may not be satanic kinds of rituals, but they're important to note in your reporting because they would fit together in a fabric as follow-up investigations might indicate a deeper need to look into the dark side of your community. So note them well and ask the investigators to do a little further follow-up if you find any of these indicated in a crime or in a police report.
There is a difference between Satanism, voodoo, and witchcraft. And what I'd like to do is show you different altar setups so you can familiarize yourself with how these people operate and their various different paraphernalia. These particular groups that I'm going to show you the different altar setups of are the type of groups that would most probably be involved in criminal activity. While you wouldn't find all this stuff at a crime scene, you will find evidence that they have been at a crime scene. For instance, you might find something like this pin here, which is used to penetrate a pulpit like we have sitting here. But then again, there are other things that might be left behind that would indicate voodoo. Now, voodoo is colorful, and usually beads and shells are associated with it. What you're looking at here is two small conch shells and some beads. Now this is what a priest would put on the necklace, such as I'm wearing here. This would indicate high priesthood. You might find conches like this with beads. You might find powders like this left behind. And this is the type of stuff that would usually be left behind in a crime scene. You're not going to find candles intact, and if you do, you might find a candle very similar to the one I'm holding here. Now you might look at this candle and say, well, what makes this candle different? Well, first of all, any candle that's used in Santeria, Macumba, or Voodoo generally will have a patron saint on the front. Now this is the saint that they would be paying obeisances to, you know, lighting the nicotine up to, drinking the rum to, and smoking the cigar smoke to. But on the back, it'll have a prayer to that patron saint that is only indicative to candles used in Santeria, Macumba, and Voodoo. Another thing that you might find would be small vials like this. These vials will contain some type of a ritual oil. Usually these oils are poured over a coal in a ritual practice. You might find a lot of empty oil vials at a ritual site. What you're looking at here is a classical satanic altar setup. Now, there are more than one type of satanic group. There are rogue satanic groups where you have a bunch of young people that get together and they read books such as the Satanic Bible by Anton Sanzer-LaVey, or some of the stuff that is published by the Temple of Set, which is also another large church of Satan. But now an organized satanic group has an organized way of setting up its altar. What you're looking at here is a classical satanic altar setup. It's very Spartan. 2 candle holders. One candle would have a white, one would have a black. You'd have a Baphomet candle in the center, or a Mendes goat is what it's called. You would have a male candle on the left-hand side and a female candle on the right-hand side. You would have a skull, which is considered the barrier of death, and a bell to ring for each one of the 9 satanic statements. And they would ring it. You would also have 2 ceremonial daggers. One ceremonial dagger is actually used in directing the forces of magic, the way occultists would do that, as in directing their powers. And the other dagger, which would be called a bolane, would actually be used in ritual work. If I were going to sacrifice someone, I would use my bolane. It's considered a working knife. So in a satanic altar setup, you're always going to look for 2 knives. Okay, what you're looking at here is a basic witchcraft setup. Now the difference is you don't see the bells. You don't see the Satanic Bible. And you'll see a couple extra things here. For instance, most witches are very adept at using the tarot. Witches are very, very big on an art called scrying or fortune telling. Another interesting addition is that, notice, the candle holders are wooden. Witches perceive themselves to be nature-centered religious belief systems, so that they use as many natural elements as possible. The other thing is, instead of having a ceremonial dagger like we have here that would be used in Satanism, they would just use a very simple 1 dagger. That's called an athame. Now, the athame is used when they charge the wine, which would be in the chalice. The athame would be used when they charge the wine, which would be in the chalice. The salt, which would be in the salt bowl, and the water, which would be in the water bowl, as well as the incense. Another interesting addition we have here is Kyrnos. This is one of the gods of the witches. And the center for any witchcraft altarpiece will have either Kyrnos, which is the god of the witches, or Diana. Another thing that witches will often have on their altar is a mortar and pestle, because they work a lot with pharmakeia, or various different incenses. Now, this is an incense we have here that would be used in ritual practice. Notice they're very bright in color. There are many different kinds. These are the kind of things that you might find left over at a crime scene. You might find little piles of colored, it looks like chalk, but it's not chalk. It's actually incense. And if you were to take it and smell it, it usually has a very fragrant smell. Another thing that you'll find is usually there's chalk. There's usually a piece of red chalk and a piece of white chalk. This is used to draw a circle around the ritual area, and it's called a boundary between the worlds. And then what they will do is make various different magical symbols in those circles. believing that these symbols will seal off an area.